Hey, how's it going, guys? All right, so in the last video, we set up our email configuration. So now we can come back here within our controller or register controller to set up all the stuff that we need for registering the user. But the first thing I want to do is set up all the what you call it comments as to what we're gonna do step by step. So I'm gonna say to do um let's see check for passwords or I'll just call it a password match. Okay, and then here I'll say um, what do we need to check here? I think here after, since most of the validations are being done within our model or using the model attribute, we don't need to check much. So as soon as we pass this step, I think the other thing that we can proceed to do is get the token string. All right, and then here we can say generate random code, and then here we're gonna say um, hash password. Okay, what else? I think that's basically it in terms of what we need to register the user. And then no, I think here we can say register user. Okay, and then here we send email. Notification. Right. Okay, then here we'll say okay, I think that should be it. All right, so here we're gonna set up an if statement. We're gonna say if, right? We're gonna say if um, password dot equals confirm password. So here basically we're checking if the password doesn't match with what the user typed in the confirm field. We then gonna return them back to the registration page. So we can copy this setup we have here within the first if statement and set it up here. Then here we will type password. Um, let's just say mismatch, right? And then here we can set up a message here. We can say passwords do not match. Okay, all right, and then this message we will set it up within the registration page. So this is what's going to be displayed. So now don't stress about whether or not the user will fill in the details, and then when it returns back, all the information that was still in the other input fields will still be there due to the model attribute, or thanks to the model attribute that we set up. So even if we return to the registration page here, those whatever fields that are still filled in will still be there. Okay, now if everything is set up correctly here, we can then now generate the token string. So for that we can come in the helper class, right? We can say um, token, right? And then in here we can set up a method where we return a token string. So right, and then in here we can say string token equals to what I'm going to use is the UU what is it, UUI, is it random? hold on. Okay, it's UUID, right? And then dot random UUID, and then at the end we can say toString, right? And then here we can just say return token. Okay. All right. So now within the registration controller down here, we can say string token, which equals to token dot generate token. All right. So that should return us a random token string. Okay. Here we're gonna generate the random code. So for that, we can use the random class for that. So I'll say random, and then here we can call it rand equals to new random, right? Here I'm going to create an integer, call it bound, and then we're just gonna put a random number here. Okay, and then what we then can do is int then code, which will equal to, I'm gonna times this by the bound number, but then I can say rand, oh sorry, I can say bound times rand dot next int, and then also place in that bound um, integer that we created there. So the code will get a random number times whatever bound number we set up there, and then this just gives it a range of numbers which will be generated based on that. So yeah, I think that should be fine. And then now the other part is to get the sorry, I actually was supposed to get a to do, and then I'll say get email HTML body, right? So we're gonna get that from our HTML helper. Will equal to that HTML dot get HTML template, right? And then remember we're gonna pass in the token and then also the code. No, actually, sorry. I'm gonna say integer dot toString, right? And take that, because we set that up. We don't actually have to do this, right? We can even just change the we can change this to an integer right here within the parameter, but in any case it's fine. We can just pass it to an integer, what you call it, we can pass it to a toString, and then it'll still set it up. All right, so here we're going to hash the password. So now I'm going to say string. So remember we got the bcrypt helper class, or let me, yeah, the bcrypt library, because of one of our dependencies that we imported. So here we're going to say hash password, which is going to be the password that we're getting from the form, and then here we can just say bcrypt dot generate salt, right? So this password that we're hashing is the one that the user is inputting here within the, or that we're getting from the form. All right, so now since we're here, we can then now create let me just close these. So now we can create a repository folder within here. So we're going to say right, in here we can create another class which is going to be an interface. We're going to say user repository. Okay, and then in here it's going to be um, I'm going to say crud. What is it? Crud repository. All right. Then we're going to bind this to the user model using an integer. Okay. So let's just import this. All right. So oh yeah, let's annotate this before I forget. Okay. All right. So um for this to work, um, one of the most important things that you need to do is annotate this model user class as entity, and then make sure the private what you call it the user ID field is annotated with the ID what you call it field over there. Otherwise, it's just going to give you issues. So, but in any case, however you set up your models here is very important in terms of how the the JPA API is going to map this to whatever tables that you have within your database. So our table, we named it user, so it'll know automatically to look for the users table. But if let's say your table was named differently, you can use add table class here, and then you then here name whatever you need the name of your table. So let's say you need the name of your table was user accounts. So then the JP repository will know that it needs to look within this table over here. So, but we don't need to do this now. But you'll see me use this later on. Don't stress about this. So, but make sure you got the entity annotation, and make sure your primary key field, the one that's in the database, is also the same as this here, and then annotate it with the ID annotation. All right. So here we can set up the class that we're going to use. So the first one is going to be at modifying, and then here we say at query. Okay, sorry. Right, and then in here is where just make sure to import that. Right, so in here is where you would write your SQL statement. So first I need to say value. Okay, so in here we'll say insert into users, and then we set up the fields. So remember we got the first name, right? We got the last name, we got email, we got password, we got token, and then we got code, right? And then after this, um, we can then say um, values. So now I want this to be on the next thing, because it's gonna be what you call it. It's gonna be too long to see. But in any case, here then we now here when you set up the here you can either say something like one question mark and then two question mark, etc. These will be the placeholders for where we set up our parameters, but I find it easier to just name them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna need double the semicolon, then we're gonna say first name. What am I doing? It's first name, and then last name, and then email, and then password, and then token, and then code. I don't know why I did that, but yeah. Yeah, so we got the first name, last name, email, password, token, and then code. All right, so now those are our fields. Now the other thing we need to say is native query and then true. All right, that's our string, and then we also need to say add transactional. Okay, so then here we can say void register user. Okay, so now here is where we're going to set up the parameters. I typed this, I made a spelling error there. All right, so again, like I said, it's much easier to just name your parameters this way rather than using the first method, the first way I showed you. So now here we can say at param, right? And then we're gonna say first name. So the name that you put here needs to be the same as what you set up there, right? Then here we can say string and then say first name. Okay, then I'm gonna put this on the next line and say param, and then the other one is last name. Okay, and then we're gonna say string last name. Param going to be email, and again string, and then email. Okay, and then the other one is password. Okay, damn it. Param, and then the last one, oh, this second last one is token. Again string, and then token. Okay, so those are all the fields we need. So it's first name, last name. It's about, let me see, 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6. So just to verify, we can also open our database. I think I have the caps lock on. No, I don't. For some odd reason, my password is now wrong. I don't know why. Okay, in any case, so I wanted to just verify the fields that we have within our application, but we will see that once we test the registration. So, but yeah, if you want to use native queries like the normal SQL statements, make sure you also add this second parameter here, this attribute native query equals to true, and then you should be able to write normal SQL statements just like how I have done it here. All right, so I think that's all we need. All right, so now the other thing now is up here at the top. What I'm gonna say is private, and then user repository, and then user repository, and then we wanna annotate this as towhile. Okay, so if you're wondering what this is going to do is it's going to perform this particular SQL statement, and it's gonna get the credentials in the what you call it, in the application's properties here. So automatically it'll find what, it'll check these properties and use that to connect to the database and then perform this particular SQL statement. So if everything is wrong within here, or you set up the wrong credentials, it's not going to work. It'll show an error. Then the other thing is, I know that I'm pretty much aware that usually they do, you would do something like this by creating a service class. So you create another folder here called services, and then you will create maybe let's say a user service. Let me just show you an example. Services, right? And then you would create a class within here and say user service, right? So normally you would let you would set up that particular, you would auto wire that this user repository within a class like this. But I haven't tested this yet. I haven't worked with it as of yet, so I'm gonna leave it out for now. I'm just gonna do what I did within the previous project, but maybe in the next project I will do something like that. But for now, I'm gonna delete this folder um, because we don't need it. All right. So in any case, here is where we can call the user repository class, and then we can say register user, and then in here we will place in all the fields we need. So it's going to be first name, last name, and then email, and then we're going to put in the hashed password, right? Remember, we're hashing our password, then token, then code, right? Remember, this is in string, so we have to say integer dot to string, and then paste that in there. Okay, so here is where we would register our user. All right, and then here we're gonna say um, mail what was it, mail messenger, correct? Yeah, mail messenger dot html mail, and then here we can set up as to who the email is from, so we can use that very same one or we can use a different one, but let's just use the same one. Reply, no reply at somecompany.com, right? And then the email is going to whatever email we set up within the form, and then the subject is going to be um, verify account. Okay, and then what else do we need? The body. So remember, here we're getting the HTML body, so we're going to say email body. All right, and then remember, this might throw an exception, so let's add the just make sure you edit that messaging exception there. Okay, so after here, what do we need? We need to then return to the dashboard, I mean to the registration page. So I'm just going to copy this object here and paste it over here, and then we can just say success, and then we can say account, you know what, let me say string, message. Right, we're going to say equal to account registered successfully, please check your email and verify account. I think that should be fine for our success message, and then we can place that within here. Okay, all right, so I think we did everything that we needed to register the user. So like I said, we can go about this many ways, but I think they should be fine in terms of what we need for our registration process. Okay, so within the registration page, make sure you have these core tags, I mean these tags here at the top, right? And then where are we? We are in the email body. Okay, so just before the registration header there, we can put our message over here. Right, so we're gonna use the JSTL core tag, right? So we're gonna say C if, right? Okay, then here we'll say test equals to, we're gonna put that expression there. We're gonna say request scope dot, okay, yeah, so the first one we need to check for is the password mismatch, right? So we're gonna copy that attribute name, and then that's what we're gonna check for here. So if that is not equal to null, Then we're going to set up our message within here. So we will then say, I'm going to put a div, and then we're going to give it a class of alert, then alert uh, danger, and then text center, and then border, and then border danger. Okay, and then here is where we will display our message. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in the bold tag so that it comes out in bold. Then paste that there. Just make sure you remove the at not equal to now message, right? And copy that. Right, so we're going to do now the same thing for the success message. So we can copy that, what we did there, and paste it there. And then we can change this to success so that it gives us a greenish alert box. And then here we're going to check for, so remember we're checking for success attribute, and then it will display this message if it's not null. Right, so then we can come back here and then change that to success, change also that to success, right? Okay, so I think we got everything there. And then if we did everything correctly within our uh, model attribute, we should be able to register the user. So for the time being, I'm going to run the server. Hopefully there's no errors, but if there are, we will check them out together. So I'm going to pause the video while the IntelliJ deploys the application, and then we will check it out once it's up. One moment for me, please. All right, guys. The server tried to deploy the application, but it seems like there was an error. So I was just looking through it, and I think it has something to do with when I was also trying to connect to the MySQL command console here. So my suspicion is that the MySQL service is not running. So let's just check that out. So I'm going to open the. By the way, I'm using the run function for Microsoft. So I'm going to open the services, what you call it, console, and then we're just going to check. I have a suspicion the MySQL service is not running. That is why most likely I wasn't able to connect to the database, and I'm thinking it's the same thing here because it's giving and connection refused error here. Okay, so let's just go down to MySQL. Yeah, that's what I thought. So in any case, I'm going to start this, and then I'm gonna try again to actually log in to our server. Okay, okay, yeah. So I think it was due to that service not running. That is why it didn't want to connect to the database. Demo bank E1, and then let's just describe users. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we don't need to stress about the user ID. That automatically will create an ID. All right, so I'm gonna deploy the server again, and then see if this time it will work. All right, so I'm gonna pause the video while it deploys the application again, and then we will continue once it's up. One moment for me again. All right, guys, the server is now up. So far, there are no issues as I check here within the console. So now let's see if we can register a user. So far, if we check within the database, there's no users registered. So users, okay, it's an empty set. And remember, I'm gonna use one of the email accounts that we set up here within what you call it, Thunderbird. I don't know which email application you're using, but I'm using Thunderbird. In any case, already within here we have two email notifications from when we were testing. As you can see, that was around May. So let's see if we can then receive an email. All right, so I'm gonna open the browser. Okay, then I'm gonna say 127 port 8080. I mean 8070. Okay, we're now here, so we can come to register. Okay, so um, I'm gonna use Sam. Oh yeah, there it is already. Thanks to the autocomplete. I think I have my caps lock on. So now what I want to do is I'm going to say password so that we see that our password mismatch message will play or will show up. I'm going to say password 123. Sorry, password 123. And in here I'll say password 1234. So when I click register, okay, so there you have it. Our error message is now displaying. So, and then as you can see, we didn't lose our data there. So yeah, so at least now our check is now showing. So now let's put in the correct password and see if we can register. Okay, so let's click there. Email account registered successfully. Please check your email. Okay, there's a spelling error there. Please check your email to verify account. And I actually just received an email notification. As you can see there, there's the time 105 and 104. So if you click here, um, um, okay, so our message is not displaying. Let me just see what's happening here. Okay, the connection to the server was fine, but it doesn't look like it sent um, the email notification over here. Um, or rather, let me say it didn't send the email body. So string email body equals to that. All right. Okay, we got the email, but we didn't get um, our HTML message there. So let me just close this. But let me just see if we did register the user. Okay, it did. Right. Let me do this. Okay, so the code didn't go through, and then okay, we got the token, but the code wasn't wasn't sent through. So clearly we made a mistake somewhere. Okay. All right. So let's do this. I want to modify this. Let's just make it into an integer, right? And then let's modify this as well and say code, right? And then let me just verify again. Int code. What's the issue here? Okay. And then we also need to change this here and say code, right? So now obviously it's going to give an issue because on the repository side we set this as a string. So I'm going to change that and say integer. That should rectify it. I don't know if that's the reason why it didn't display anything within here, but the other part that I want to check is the HTML. So right, so let's see. Oh, that is why. Flip. Okay. when we set this up initially, I forgot to actually change that from that empty string to this part over here to the email template. So the changing of our code and all of that didn't actually need to be done. So, but in any case, whatever though. All right, so yeah, so apologies for that, guys. I actually, when we were setting this up, I forgot that I set up an empty string and I didn't return this email template. That is why it's not displayed. But in any case, we did what you call it, get this user. So I'm gonna delete that user and try to register again. Okay, check now. There's nothing. So let's reuse what we did here. First, let's run the server again. Uh, right, and then we will try again once the server is up and running. One moment for me, please. Okay, the server is up. Let's try again and register. So um, let me just refresh the page. So I'm going to use Sam Davis again, which is Sam. All right, and then password. Right, register. Okay, so we registered. Let's check the email account. We got that verification. Okay, so this time we did get our email body. And then if you check here at the bottom here, you see there we got a token and a random number. So if you check, the number is 9717, and then the last four digits of the token is BBACA, which is let's see if that's what's matching within our database. All right, so as you can see, this time around it did set the code, and then that's the token string. All right, so now when you click here, it's supposed to go to the verify account and redirect us back to the what you call it, to the login page. And then as you can see, because we set debug mode within our mail config, we are able to see what exactly the email server is sending, or what our application is sending to the server, and then that's the email body that we set up within our application. So now, guys, before we click on this verify account, I just want to make sure that we have everything in terms of what we need to verify the account. So we got the token and everything. So now let's check within the index page. So we're going to say index controller. And if you remember here, we had the verify account, right? Which is verify, as you can see, before the token string. So we will be able to get the values from the token string, I mean from the token that's displaying within the URL. So here I need us to then what you call it, make some changes. So but we will do that within the next video. Already the video is long, so in the next video we will set up the whole verification account settings within this verify route. All right, guys, so I'm going to end the video here. Unfortunately, it took a bit longer than I anticipated, but yeah, we're going to continue this within the next video, because there's also another repository application that method that we need to set up there. All right, guys, so again, if you like what you've seen so far, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys within the next video. All right, cheers for now.